Hello friends, today we are going to start new unit, that is unit number 3, bending and shear stresses, or we can say bending stresses and shear stresses. In the first lecture we will discuss about what is the bending stress, shear stresses and some basic theory part. This unit is generally important to analyze the structures. Whenever we will be in third year in design, RCC design or institute structure design, normally we need bending and shear stresses. In the last unit, that is drawing of shear force and bending moment diagrams, we have covered most of the part of bending and shear. Okay, so how that means bending means what? We have determined maximum bending moment and moment at different silent points in BMD. And as well as we have drawn shear force diagrams. In that we have considered shear forces at various locations, and then we have drawn shear force diagrams. Okay, so it is just a extension of unit number 2. So first of all, we know that beam is a structural member subjected to loading. Okay, beam is always subjected to loading, and due to that what happens? It bends or it deflects. Okay, that is called as deformation. Normally beam is a horizontal member which is loaded like this. If it suppose slab load is there, slab load is always uniform. Okay, thickness of the slab is uniform, so it acts like this. Sometimes only point load may be acting on the beam, sometimes UVL may be acting on the beam. Okay, and after the loading this particular beam bends like this is called as bends. Okay, bending. Okay, and whenever it bends means what bends, its cross section bend. This is the cross section of the beam. Depending upon the loading, this B and D are the dimensions of the cross sections. They are modified. If the load is large, in that case this width will be large and depth will be large. Okay, means this cross section will change based on the load acting on the beam. But due to loading, which loading? Transverse loading. Transverse means what? Here I have written transverse word. Transverse loading means what? Vertically downward load, that is perpendicular to the plane of beam. This is the plane of beam and load is acting perpendicular to that particular plane. That's why that is called as a transverse load. And due to that what happens? Due to loading, beam bends or deforms, and whenever it bends or deforms, it causes bending moment and shear forces in the beams. Okay, whenever it loaded, then when there will be existence of bending moment and shear force. Okay, the stresses induced due to bending moment is called as bending stresses, and stresses induced due to shear force is called as the shear stresses or shearing stresses. Okay, the resistance is in the form of tensile or compressive stresses in the cross section. Okay, because when beam is simply supported like this, it bends like this, means top portion will be under compression, bottom portion will be under tension. When it is a cantilever beam, in cantilever beam normally beam bends like this. When it bends like this, top portion will be in tension, bottom will be the compression. But that is in case of cantilever beam. In simply supported beam, when it bends like this, compression is the top side, tension will be at the bottom side, and that's why you might have noticed that whenever any beam is loaded, at the bottom of the beam we are normally including the reinforcement. Reinforcement means what? Steel. Okay, steel bars normally provided at the bottom to take tension. Okay, so steel is strong in tension, so it is provided at the bottom portion of the beam, and in the top portion there is a compression. So concrete takes entire compression because concrete is very weak in compression, but weak in tension but strong in compression. Concrete is strong in compression, weak in tension, and steel is strong in tension. Okay, so that's why this combination is normally used in the RCC structures. Okay, next slide. See, bending moment, shear force. Already we have discussed in the previous unit. Bending moment, it is the internal resistance moment to counteract the external moment due to the load. Okay, means what? When beam is loaded, it is not fail suddenly because there is a moment creation due to the loading. Okay, means due to the load, one bending moment is created, and already beam has a resistance capacity to resist the bending moment. That internal resistance of the moment to external moment due to the load. Okay, so it is equal to the algebraic sum of moment of all the load acting on one side of the section. We have already seen that bending moment is always taken on one side of the section. Okay, either from left support or either from right support. And similarly, there is a shear force. Shear force also a internal resistance developed to counteract the shearing action due to external loads. Okay, so every beam should able to resist some sort of shear force. Otherwise, what happen? Even after applying small load, it will fail. It should not happen. That's why whenever we are designing the cross section, we are designing in a such a way that it should resist bending moment, it should resist shear force. Okay, so it is shear force is the algebraic sum of vertical load on one side of the section, and this acts tangential to the cross section. Okay, tangential means what? Parallel, like this. Whenever any section is taken, shear force is always tangential to the cross section. Now there are two types of bending or flexure. Flexure is also called as a bending, or bending is also called as a flexure. In many books, you will find these two words for bending or flexure. Flexure is also called as a bending, or bending is also called as a flexure. So you can use any one word for bending. So first of all, there are two types. Simple bending, when load produces bending moment and which lies in the centroidal plane, is called as a simple bending. Means whatever bending moment is produced, it lies in the centroidal plane. Okay, so that is called as a simple bending. Now, pure bending, second type. It is the portion of the beam subjected to constant or equal magnitude of bending moment throughout the length or span is called as pure bending. You can see this figure. It will be well explained with this diagram. Now you can see this is simply supported beam and loaded with the same load P. Okay. Whenever we will draw shear force diagram, what will be the reaction here? As the load is same on the beam, so this P means what? Total load will be shared on two supports. So this reaction will be P. This reaction will be P. But whenever we will draw SFD for it, we will move upward by P. No load from A to C horizontal. Then we will move downward by P. Then we will reach to this neutral axis. Okay, this diagram of line of shear force, zero shear force. No load from C to D, horizontal line. Again, there is a downward load of P, means with minus P, no load plus P, that is reaction will be here. So here what I want to explain here, important one, pure bending. Pure bending means what? You can observe the zone CD. Zone CD. The distance CD, there is a no shear force. Shear force is zero in this particular portion. When shear force is zero, we know that bending moment is constant. Okay. So here you can observe SAP is zero. So in this particular portion CD, bending moment is constant or same or equal. Okay. From C to D. Okay. So this particular portion is called as pure bending. This particular part of the beam will be under pure bending because bending moment is constant in this particular zone where shear force is 0. Okay. Same thing I have written here. In portion CD there is a no shear force. Okay, that is shear force is 0. But in the portion CD bending moment is constant. That bending moment is called as pure bending. Okay, so whenever there is a zero shear force zone in the beam, that zero shear force zone is called as pure bending case. Wherever there is a shear force 0, bending moment will be constant. Okay, so that particular part of the beam will be under pure bending. In strength of material, there is one practical, that is a bending test on beam, bending test on wooden member, okay, tile member. In that case, normally we are taking 2-point loading. This is called as a 2-point loading. If only one load is act at the center, that is called as a single point loading. Okay, it is a 2-point loading. In 2-point loading, normally it is a case of pure bending. That's why this 2-point loading case is normally considered during practicals to conduct the test on timber, tile, or steel members or RCC beams. Okay, so this is a very important part of pure bending for oral point of view or for examination point of view. Now there are few technical terms like radius of gyration. A radius of gyration is denoted gyration or gyration. Whatever pronunciation you want to produce, you can produce it. Radius of gyration. So it is denoted by letter R or K. Okay. So what is the radius of gyration? So here you can see RXX, that is called as RXX or RYY, or that is also called as R minimum. Okay. RXX means what? Radius of gyration about XX axis, radius of gyration about YY axis, and minimum radius of gyration are minimum. You can see unit of radius of gyration is mm centimeter meter. Okay. What it means? Radius of gyration is nothing but the distance. It is a distance. Okay. Now how to calculate that radius of gyration? Here you can see, just observe the formula and write down the definition. What is given in this particular formula? Rxx is equal to under root of I upon E. I means what? Moment of inertia. Ixx upon E. Okay. Means it is simply a ratio of under square root moment of inertia and area of cross section. If you take a ratio of moment of inertia and area in under square root, you will get the radius of gyration. If you taking Ixx upon A, means moment of inertia about x axis upon E, we will get Rxx. Moment of inertia about y axis upon A, we will get Ryy. Sometimes in the design of column, they are asking you to calculate I minimum. Okay, I minimum, or you can say R minimum. Okay, because buckling of the column is always determined considering minimum radius of gyration. Okay, if any column, if it is safe about minimum radius of gyration, suppose among this Rxx and Ryy is less, so column should be designed for minimum radius of gyration, because if any column is safe for minimum radius of gyration, so obviously it will be safe for maximum radius of gyration, because from radius of gyration in the column design, normally slenderness ratio is calculated. And to have the higher value of slenderness ratio, normally minimum radius of gyration is taken. Because the definition of slenderness ratio is L effective upon R minimum. That's why this R minimum is calculated. Okay. So this particular definition is required in every design. So R minimum is equal to I minimum upon E. So everybody should know about that, and as well as their unit, it is mm centimeter or meter. Now mi, moment of inertia, already you have discussed in first year in mechanics. Under mechanics you have studied the moment of inertia. So what is moment of inertia? Moment of inertia is nothing but the second moment of area. In simple language, second moment of area about any particular axis is called as moment of inertia. Suppose I want to find out the moment of inertia about Ixx. So I will just take area and distance square. Area and distance square, because unit of moment of inertia is mm raised to 4, meter raised to 4, or centimeter raised to 4. Already we have discussed this in mechanics. Okay, means area of unit, it is the second moment of area. Second moment means what? Second moment of area. Area, this is area, and second moment means what? X into x, that is x square. So area into distance square, you will get mi. Okay, in simple language you can write mi is equal to ax square, that is area into distance square. So it is the second moment of area called as moment of inertia. Okay, and unit is mm raised to 4, meter raised to 4, centimeter raised to 4. Okay, why it is mm raised to 4 or centimeter raised to 4? Unit of area is suppose meter square, and area of distance it is distance square, so it will be meter square. Meter square it will be meter raised to 4. Okay, why these different units are given? Suppose sometimes in the problem the emissions are given in mm, at that time unit of moment of inertia will be mm raised to 4. If it is in centimeter, so centimeter raised to 4. So that is depends upon what is the unit employed in the problem. Moment of inertia is generally determined by using the two laws or two theorems or two ways. So first one is perpendicular axis theorem and second is parallel axis theorem. Perpendicular axis means what? Normally any system, if you consider any figure or any system, there are three axes: x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis, j-axis. Okay. See, perpendicular axis theorem. Normally, it is the moment of inertia taken about any one axis. Suppose I want to calculate moment of inertia about zz, so it will be addition of ixx plus iyy. Okay, means izz moment of inertia about zz axis is nothing but moment of inertia about xx axis plus moment of inertia about yy axis. Suppose I want to calculate moment of inertia about ixx, so I will add ixx is equal to iyy plus izz. Okay, means moment of inertia is calculated around one of the axis. Okay, one of the axis will be the addition of moment of inertia of other two axes. Okay, same thing I have written here. The sum of moment of inertia about any two axes in the plane is equal to the moment of inertia about any an moment of inertia about an axis perpendicular to the plane, the three axes being concurrent. Three axes being concurrent means what? They should act at a point, should pass through one point. Okay, so at that time mi about perpendicular axis is the sum of mi about major and minor axes. Okay, major and minor means what? Major, normally x axis is called as major axis and y axis is called as minor axis. Okay, means moment of inertia about z axis is nothing but the moment of inertia about x axis, y axis. That is major axis plus minor axis. In different books you will find different terminologies are used. Okay, suppose simply I will put this in like this: iz is equal to ixx plus iyy. In some books, instead of izz, they have used j later. J is called as the polar moment of inertia. J is called as polar moment of inertia. Normally in the torsion chapter, the J or IP come into account. IP is called as the polar moment of, P stands for polar moment of inertia, I stands for moment of inertia, and P stands for polar MI. Polar MI is equal to Ix plus Iyy. J is equal to Ixx plus Iyy. Iz is equal to Ixx plus Iyy. Okay, understood? So this is called as a perpendicular axis. Perpendicular means what? The axis which is perpendicular, if you want to calculate the moment of inertia about that axis, will be equal to moment of inertia of other two axes. It is the sum of mi of other two axes. You will get the mi about perpendicular axis. So this is the first theorem, that is perpendicular axis theorem. Okay. Now next one is parallel axis theorem. Parallel means what? Here you can see in the figure, one axis is shown as x axis, another axis is shown as z axis. Or no need to show it as z, you can say line AB, line BC, like that. This is line BC, this is line AB. Okay. So here you can see this x axis is passing through G. G means what? Centroid. G means what? Centroid. Okay, if I want to calculate moment of inertia about zz, it will be equal to izz equal to, I am taking about zz. If I want to calculate moment of inertia about zz axis, which is at a distance h from CG, h from centroid, from center of any figure or any geometrical figure, the distance is taken as h. means h is the perpendicular distance from that any axis means z axis and x axis, distance from centroid. That is the perpendicular distance between two axes. Okay, so how to calculate that? Izz means moment about zz axis will be equal to moment of inertia about ixx plus ahs square. Okay, moment of inertia about ixx यानी कि मुझे अगर आई जेड जेड पे एम आई निकालना है तो मैं क्या करूंगा, आई विल टेक एम आई अबाउट एक्स एक्स एक्सिस प्लस ए एच स्क्वायर. ये मीन्स व्हाट, दिस पर्टिकुलर एरिया, this particular area into h means what, this square. Okay, so it is nothing but the second moment of area, ah square. Area, unit of area meter square, unit of a square meter square means meter raised to 4. This is also meter raised to 4, it is also meter raised to 4. Okay, so how it is defined, the moment of inertia about any axis is the sum of moment of inertia about centroidal axis. Centroid means what, g, moment of inertia about g, centroid, sum of mi about centroidal axis and area times the square of distance between the axes. Okay, square of the distance between the area times area into h square. Okay, in some books it is defined as I base. Base means what, any particular point. I base is equal to ig. Ig means what, mi about centroid, g, ig. Okay, so that is also called as ixx. If ixx passes through the centroid, then you can simply say it is a ig. Okay, means I about base will be equal to ig plus h square. So what is I? I stands for moment of inertia. Moment of inertia about base equal to moment of inertia about centroid plus area and square of the perpendicular distance between two axes. That is nothing but the parallel axis theorem. You just draw this diagram whenever there is a theory question. Explain with the diagram. Then and then you will get full marks. Okay. Now next, mi of different cross section. Okay. So this part actually I am going to cover in next lecture. But still, you just see what is a moment of inertia for different cross section. Already we have discussed all these equations in first year, that is in centroid chapter. Okay, centroid and mi. Okay, if there is a rectangular section, in rectangular section horizontal dimension is width, vertical dimension is depth. If I want to calculate moment of inertia about x axis, ixx will be equal to bd cube by 12. Okay, bd cube by 12. Okay, you can see here xx is cutting depth. Always cube is taken for the cutting axis. अगर x x d को कट रहा है तो d को कट कर रहा है, this dimension is depth. x x अगर depth को कट कर रहा है तो यहाँ पे उसका cube होना चाहिए, bd cube by 12. Okay. Now suppose I want to take about y axis, moment of inertia about y is cutting b. Okay, so b should be cubed, so here it must be db cubed by 12. Okay, here in first case ixx was bd cubed by 12 and here iyy is db cubed by 12. Same is applicable in this case, hollow rectangular section, but here difference is it is a hollow section, so external dimension will be capital B and D and internal dimensions will be small b and d. Small width means this internal width, small depth means internal depth. Okay, it is exactly similar to the first case, but only here you have to deduct this middle hollow portion. It is a hollow rectangle, so this hollow rectangle means middle rectangle to be deducted. Okay, otherwise formula is same. X axis is cutting small d capital D, so here it must be cube. BD capital BD cube by 12 minus small BD cube by 12. So here 12 is common, so if we take 12 common, it will be BD cube by 12 minus small BD cube by 12. You will get moment of inertia about x axis. Similarly for IYY, capital DB cube by 12 minus small DB cube by 12. Okay, I will get moment of inertia about y axis. For circle is a symmetrical section, that's why Ixx and Iyy are same. Ixx and Iyy equal to pi by 64 d raised to 4. So this is the formula for circle. Everybody should know all these equations while calculating mi. For hollow circular section, capital D is the external diameter, small d is the internal diameter. So I will take pi by 64 common. capital D raised to 4 minus small d raised to 4, or you can find out pi by 64 capital D raised to 4 minus pi by 64 small d raised to 4. You will get mi about x and y axis. Circular sections are symmetrical, so they are same. For triangle, mi about cg. Cg means what? About x axis or about centroid. Okay, mi about cg, ix is equal to bh cube by 36, means about x axis mi of triangle is bh cube by 36. And for base, about base, you should use perpendicular axis theorem. So here about base, this formula is bh cube by 12. Okay, eb means what? Base. About base, this formula is bh cube by 12. Okay, centroid 36 and about base 12. For semicircle, semicircle means what? Half of the circle. Okay, half circle, half of the circle, semicircle. Moment of inertia about x axis means about this centroid, it is 0.11 r is to 4. Okay, 0.11 maybe pi by 128. In some books this formula is given in terms of pi by 128 r is to 4 or 0.11 r is to 4. And about base, it will be pi r is to 4 by 8. Okay, that is pi by 128 d is to 4. Okay, pi by 128, sorry, pi by 128 d raised to 4, it is for mi about base, not for x-axis. Okay, so you should know all these equations. Now next one is the quarter circle. Quarter means fourth part of circle. It will be half of 0.11. Here you can say I have written 0.11. Half of that, it will be 0.0549 r is to 4. That is ixx and iyy. And IEB or about base, it will be pi r raised to 4 by 16. Okay, so in this way, if you know all these equations, you will be able to find out the mi of different section. Okay, so in next lecture we are going to discuss about in detail numericals of moment of inertia. Thank you.